Hey guys, this one is going to be the run-up to the boss battle. What I want to have create is we want to create a boss, but we're also going to need to create a kind of an arena for the boss battle to take place. And also I wanted to do one more hazard, or one last hazard for the player to have to go through. And what I want to do is create the quintessential kind of like lava pit. Sort of a place where if the player falls into, he will be, insto killed. So what I want to do is first off go to create other. Let's go ahead and just create a cube. All right, set this thing up at our wonderful 0, 0, 0, and then let's make it a little wider, a little longer, a little thicker. All right, and I'll just bring this thing down like this. We'll put it under our wonderful little moving platforms down in here. And what I want to do is I want to change this thing to a box collider is trigger. That'll be our first thing. And then go to Playmaker, add an FSM, and we need to just do our classic on collision. Actually, it's not on collision. We want a get trigger, a trigger event, and on trigger enter, collide with the player. We want to send event, and we want to do add our second state, and what we want to do is send event kill, and then kill, boom, and then this event here, we want to go back to our wonderful state machine and go to our send event. And what we want to do real quick is the target will be a game object. The game object will be our health manager for all things that have to do with health and benefits, and we want to send the event of death. Okay, so what's going to happen is when the player enters the lava pit, he will then it'll send the event to the health manager, and it will not pass go. It will not collect $200, and it will go straight to the death. Okay, most likely this should pop up as being a global event. If it doesn't, then you need to add it to the thing. Let's call this one lava. Okay, and lava needs to have a color, right? So let's go and let's create a material. Set this material to that burning red color. That works. And then take said new material, and there we go, rename it lava red, and then drag it onto that. So now we have our lava red, and now if everything goes correctly, this should work. Testing it out. Alright, so jump and down through. Uh-oh, fell right through. What's going on? Alright, so first let's double check our lava. Lava, we look at it, oh, send event, ha ha ha. If you don't have your event being sent, then it's not going to go to the next state. Alright, so let's go to our health manager real quick, and let's see and make sure this thing's going to work. Alright, still not working. Well, what's happening here is it's being stayed on this state right here, life bar, which only has a heal and a hurt. So when it sends it to this state, it doesn't have it's going to send the event to it, but because there's not an event, it's not going to do anything. So what we need to do is add a transition of death and send that over to death, right? Because that's what we want, is the instant death. And let's see if this works. Okay. So we jump off, and blink, there he goes, down one more Mega Man, right? So instant lava pit demise. All right. So our next order of business, we need to build some kind of a boss arena. So I'm going to Control D, duplicate, and add a couple of little things, little platforms that our player can jump onto, okay, in order to make this stuff work. Command D, What I want to do here is I just want to rotate this one around 90 degrees. Okay, and put it up here, and then make one more duplicate of this and pull it down to say something. Say something kind of like that. That would be fine. Just extend this platform out so he has kind of this little tunnel to go through, right? And we all know from the classic games that when you go through a tunnel, you're about to come out into something that has a different gameplay mechanic, whether it's a boss battle or a boss battle, a power-up stage, a whatever, but something about the game is going to change when we go into this. So let's make sure that's playable, which it should be. Don't hit the lava pit. All right, there we go. So we get up to our platform, and then we can go through here. All right, so now we're in kind of this boss arena kind of thing. Now, this is one way to do it so that you can't jump back up to the platform once you get in. But I've always been a big fan of the wonderful things where you can where you have a door shut behind you. I just think that creates something that's a great more intimidation factor. So right now my scale of said object is what, it's like 15. Let's change that something like about a 4. Okay, so it's only a short drop off to the under platform. Okay, and as a matter of fact, just to speed things up, I'm going to move the player start to something like this so we can just go ahead and test how this will go. So this would be the boss area, and by default we'll be able to hop back out, right? So it should be no problems there. So what we need to do is create some sort of a trap door or something that we can use here. All right, so let's go ahead and create this trap door. Game object, create other. Let's go to a cube. Rename this thing. Call it trigger door. All right, trigger door, and we're going to set its position back to 0, 0, and the 0. All right. And then we can just quickly say scale it out and then scale it up. That looks about right. All right, so what we want to have happen is here's our trigger door, and that's how we're going to set this thing up as a trigger. So this is going to be the door itself. What we need to do is let's go and create one more cube. Okay, and this one is going to be door trigger. Trigger door and door trigger, right? And we're going to scale this thing up a little bigger, right? We can actually hide our mesh renderer. We really just want the wonderful box. And what I'm going to do is scoot it down, right? Because it needs to be under. This door is going to come down after we leave the trigger area, okay? And then it's going to move down into this space. So what we want to have happen is we have our trigger door, and then we have our door trigger, and I'm going to actually parent these two. So pull the trigger door down into the door trigger. So we have these two kind of working together, so they'll move together and all that. And then what I'm going to have happen is just take this guy, move him up, and then over, and then pull this down to here. Let's say something along these lines. So when this moves down, it'll fit. Let's make it a little larger. There we go. All right, so it'll seal this off, chink, right? So let's look over here. This is a Y of 13, and it needs to go down to, say, 9. So 13 to 9, or 14 to 9. So that's a distance of 5. So 14. And then we want to translate down to 5. So go to our playmaker, let's go add an FSM, go to our actions, and what we want to do is have our physics, and we want to go to a trigger event, and on trigger exit. So once the player leaves this thing, what we want to have happen is it needs to send event of close the door. So close, right? state, send event, close, add the transition, close, add the state. All right, real quick, super simple. In this case, what we want to do is transform, translate, add the action, and we want to do a y vector of, say, -5, okay, per second every frame. So what should happen now is when our guy leaves, is going to move down 5 and shut the door. So let's see how she works. Okay, well, that didn't work quite yet. It always helps when you make sure your is trigger is set on your trigger boxes, right? So the top trigger door needs to say normal. The trigger door itself needs to make sure it is a trigger, right? Okay, try this one more time. So our guy leaves, and all right, so it helps to have the right one set to the right right box. So what we need to do is make sure that our trigger door, right, let's go ahead and just say Command C, and then our door trigger, paste FSM. So now it'll close. We need to make sure our state 2, instead of it being use owner, make sure that's set to specified game object, make sure it's set to trigger door. Okay, this is when those confusing variable names come in. So trigger door top guy, right? And this is going to be our door trigger. And let's rename this so that it makes more sense. Door trigger box. Okay, so it's got a little different name to it. So door trigger, on trigger exit. Here's the player. All right, so let's try this test one more time. So go in, move, door comes down, and passes right through the rest of it. All right, so to solve this problem, we need to basically have this guy stop moving. Let's tidy up this thing a bit. So our trigger door has this open and closed state. We really don't need it to have that open and closed state anymore. So what I want to do is go ahead and just remove actually the Playmaker script from our door. So back to our trigger box, which is causing all this action to happen. And yes, it's translating. Yes, it's causing the movement to happen, but there's nothing to stop the movement. So what we want to do is add one more state, right? And we know that this is set up to be a -5 per second. So it's going to close, it's going to move the 5 in 1 second. So what we want to do is add a wait to it. Okay, so let's add that action. So it's going to move, wait 1, and then when it's finished, we want it to basically be done. Right, so we want it to stop. So we'll add, well, a close will be fine. So go ahead, close, add that to state 3. State 3 does absolutely nothing, okay, because we just want it to stop and stay there. So what happens now is we enter the state, leave the state, and the door shuts. Okay, so that's kind of what we're wanting to have happen. Now the problem here is, as you can see, that if you have the trigger on this side of the door, well, then that means that you can create a bug where you can't even get to the boss battle anymore, right? So if I was to go say, oh no, this is creepy, let me back out, well, congratulations, the door's now shut and I can't get back in. So let's fix that real quick. So the easiest way to do this is actually move your trigger box more into the room, so that once the player is fully in here, then the door is going to shut. Okay, so it's sort of a situation where and then I move in, and then oh no, the door just shut. All right, this kind of a situation is, you know, what you want to watch out for. So in this case, it's like, oh, let me see if I can get out of here. Okay, well, so it's still kind of buggy. Let's fix this. Okay, so let's place it where our character cannot get to into it. So he needs to enter, correct, and then he needs to exit, right? So what needs to have happen is this will go here, all right, let's move it one more time. All right, so fix this from 2 sides. Side number 1, move the box, shrink the box down, make it kind of a smaller box, so that he'll enter it and exit the box. All right, or you can change it to on trigger enter. Second thing is when we close this door, that -5, right? If we change that to a -10 per second, right, and change our time to a 0.5, it should have the same effect. So what we want to have happen is you would enter the room, nothing's really going to happen yet, and then boom, you enter and exit, the door shuts really fast. Can't get back out. Okay, so in fact I could even move the door back just a little bit more to kind of make that effect happen. All right, so there's the door. We're sealed in. All right, ready for a boss battle. So real quick, made a level floor, a lava floor, made a trigger door, which you could then make and put anywhere else. Looks like we're ready to have a boss showdown.